You're listening to an archived Cabral Concept podcast. After listening to this show, check out the most up-to-date podcasts available at stephencabral.com/podcasts or search directly on iTunes. And now, welcome to the Cabral Concept, where board-certified naturopath and integrative health practitioner Dr. Stephen Cabral shares how he was diagnosed at the age of 17 with a life-altering illness and given no hope for recovery. It was only after studying and traveling all over the world did he discover how to combine ancient Ayurvedic healing practices with state-of-the-art naturopathic and functional medicine to fully rebalance the body and re-energize it with life. It's time to discover how to get well, lose weight, and finally feel alive again. And now, here's your host, Dr. Stephen Cabral.
Now, today's first house call of the weekend, we're going to be going over our community's questions. These ones date all the way back, not too far back, but a little bit far back, to the last week or so in May, and then we'll be getting into the first week of June's questions that came in at stephencabral.com/ask Cabral. That is absolutely where you can ask me your health-based questions or your wellness, your weight loss, your anti-aging-based questions, and I'm always happy to answer those. And of course, for any type of customer support or any questions that we can help you with that need more of an immediate answer, you just ask them at support@stephencabral.com or support@drcabraldetox.com. So without further ado, we're going to get right into today's questions. They are, again, all various topics that I'm really looking forward to covering. And we're going to be able to move through them, I think, pretty quickly today because for the most part, they are pretty straightforward answers that I have. So let's get started with Thomas's first. He wrote in, "Hello, I found the Cabral Concept podcast a few weeks ago and love it. I've listened to many, not all of the episodes. I'm trying to have this email read on house calls. I'm a 42-year-old male with interstitial cystitis. I was diagnosed 5 years ago. It pretty much happened overnight. I'm otherwise very healthy," and just starts to go into essentially his physique and what he's on for drugs. So I'm not going to read all of the questions today. Again, those are all available at stephencabral.com/podcast. And then, of course, just click on today's show. This will allow me to get through all of the questions a little faster if they're quite long. So essentially, he's looking for relief from his interstitial cystitis. So one of the things is, first, let's explain what that is. Interstitial cystitis is actually also called painful bladder syndrome. So in painful bladder syndrome, just like it might say, there's sometimes pain around the pelvis area, around the kidneys. There can be a frequent urinary urge to get up and have to urinate quite often, even if no urine actually comes out. So it affects both men and women, although more common in women, but that does not necessarily mean it does not affect men. And it can happen what seems like overnight. And it can happen because of a change in literally acidity within the body. We're going to get to that in a moment. It can change in a bacteria. So basically the body was exposed to some type of bacteria, whether it's from food or the environment itself, or it could be a growing inflammatory based issue that then obviously gets to that peak level, it tips, and then you start to feel those symptoms. So one of the things that Thomas did is he started to use a little bit more of an anti-inflammatory based diet, no gluten, no processed sugar, and that seemed to help a little bit. And so that is absolutely on the right track. So I want to keep pushing you towards an anti-inflammatory diet. I would actually recommend for you, Thomas, just an initial 3-week protocol with our healthy urinary tract protocol. That is specifically vitamin C. It's D-mannose, and it's grapefruit seed extract drops, GSE drops. We'll link that up in the show notes. So, of course, for today's specific show, just go to stephencabral.com/498. And once we link everything up there, you'll be able to go to the Candida protocol, which is what I'm recommending after the urinary tract protocol. So first, just try to get a little relief through that. And then with the Candida overgrowth protocols, you're just going to, if you can do an organic acids test. So organic acids test will actually tell you if you have yeast overgrowth or bacterial overgrowth that can then be affecting the bladder. Just keep in mind that this happens all the time with E. coli and all of these other types of things that can affect the bladder itself. Okay. So that is what I recommend, to either do the organic acids test or just go right into the Candida and bacterial overgrowth protocol. Of course, I love people to do lab testing, but if lab testing isn't within your budget, then you can move to the protocol. Okay. Acupuncture has been shown to have some effectiveness as well. So just kind of as you're balancing your nervous system as well, that can help. Also, a 50-50 dilution of apple cider vinegar. So let's say about 2 ounces to 3 ounces of apple cider vinegar in a glass of water. Some people also add 1/8 of a teaspoon of baking soda. That will help to alkalize the system. What does that mean? Well, it simply means adding more minerals and trying to get your urine to actually. So I'm not a huge proponent of like pH-based testing strips for urine because your urine is actually supposed to be a little bit more acid in the morning, then it gets a little bit more alkaline throughout the day. That's normal human physiology because your body is dumping all of the waste that's accumulated from an overnight fast. Basically, when you're sleeping at night, your body's detoxifying. It just means that it's removing waste. It's removing acids, which is also why you do the organic acid test in the morning when you first wake up. So you want that to actually be acid, but if you're still urinating and you're testing those acid-based strips, the pH strips, why don't we link those up in the show notes today as well? I'll do that. I've never linked those up before, but I'll do that today. So I'm just making a little note for myself. And what they do is you want to make sure that by lunchtime and afternoon that you are not urinating a very acid-based number. Because if you are, that acid is actually an aggravant to the bladder and the urethra. And so what will happen is you'll have a more of a urgency to urinate. So that can be helped without a doubt by balancing your minerals, getting good magnesium in there as well, but also looking at that 50-50 apple cider vinegar or teaspoon, 1/8 of a teaspoon of baking soda as well. So Thomas, good place to get started, and I hope that serves you well. So Brittany's up next. She said, "Hi, Dr. Cabral. I listened to your podcast on thyroid, which prompted me to ask about the parathyroid. I went to the doctor for lab work, and my parathyroid hormone was high, and my calcium level was high by 1 point. They ran the numbers again 2 weeks later, and the parathyroid number had lowered and was slightly outside of the reference range. My calcium had gone down by 1/10 of a point. The only thing that changed between the first test and the second test were eating a bit more iodine because I thought that I had a thyroid issue and I began taking one of your dietary supplements. I was advised to see an endocrinologist, haven't had my appointment yet. My vitamin D is lower than the reference range. My LDL is slightly high. Do I need more calcium or am I lacking it? Which foods are helpful to lower parathyroid? Will food supplements keep my levels normal or will these levels need to be maintained? Are there any foods that would be helpful to my thyroid that also help for my parathyroid?" Okay, good question. So first and foremost, your parathyroid is not related to your thyroid. I know it sounds that way because it has the word thyroid in it, right? So that would obviously make sense that they're related, but they're actually not in terms of their function. So one of the things that we want to keep in mind that one of the reasons why people get hyperparathyroidism, which is you're basically trending in that direction, just means high parathyroid numbers, is sometimes there's a tumor, but I'm sure they ruled that out. Sometimes there's gland enlargement, and that means that simply that there's inflammation of that parathyroid. And we'll talk about why in just a moment. And what happens is when your parathyroid's overactive, it causes your kidneys and intestines to actually absorb or hold on to more calcium. And so that's why you see your calcium numbers a little higher. So it doesn't mean that you need to eat more calcium per se. That's not it. Or you need to eat less calcium. It's that we need to fix this parathyroid hormone because when that returns to normal, your calcium levels will return to normal. Well, just like you saw as your parathyroid numbers started to go down, your calcium started to go down because they're directly related. So what I like to tell people is that your calcium number in your blood is not necessarily related to the amount of calcium that you're eating in your diet. It's not that close because honestly, there's not that much calcium stored in your blood versus what's in your bones and tissues. And your body will typically just pull from your bones or muscle tissue or tissue in general to keep more calcium in the actual blood. So that's why, again, blood is a homeostatic fluid. Great to have lab tested once a year, twice a year as needed, but you really want to be looking at your hair tissue mineral analysis, your organic acid test, those types of things for overall vitamins and mineral levels. Okay, so here's the thing. People can have parathyroid dysfunction if their body is not getting enough magnesium, it's not getting enough vitamin D, D3 of course, and also you do need the iodine and selenium that are in our daily thyroid support to help the parathyroid as well. So because it's needed for what's called to produce calcitonin. And calcitonin actually is what helps to control those calcium levels as well. So my highest recommendation, at least to get started with, is to do the daily nutritional support in the morning. That's going to give you a nice balance of all your different vitamins, or the daily activated multivitamin. I would do a vitamin D3 5000 once a day until you get your levels up. I would try to get some sun, which means a tan during the summer, not getting burnt, but a tan to get those vitamin D levels up as well. And what else would I do for you? The daily thyroid support I would consider critical, plus a little extra magnesium glycinate or a full spectrum magnesium to balance your magnesium levels as well. You could simply do 300 to 500 milligrams per day at dinner, before bed, or if you want, spread out through the day. So hopefully that gets you started, Brittany, and then you could have your blood levels retested in 6 weeks. Okay. Let's see. Sierra is up next. Hi, Dr. Cabral. I have some questions about 481 concerning food combining. I've been studying nutrition and holistic health for several years now, and I really loved your breakdown about proper food combining. A lot of this information is consistent with what I've studied, and I've incorporated what makes the most sense to me. I typically eat fruit on its own or in a green smoothie. What is your opinion on combining sweet and subacid fruits with leafy greens in a smoothie, as the food has already been pre-digested? I've read that leafy greens and fruit combine well together, but I've recently heard that this is a bad combination and only apples mix well in a green smoothie. Also, your daily fruit and vegetable blend supplement contains similar combinations. How does this product demonstrate proper food combining? Okay, Sierra, really good question. We get this question quite often. And, of course, as I was going through my own nutritional studies, I had the same exact questions as you. The truth is that you have to have these questions in order to get the answers in the first place. So it's great that you're asking them. I think it's really, really helpful. And, of course, I never take any offense or anything like that. It's my job to share these things with you. So for everyone that didn't tune into episode 481, StephenCabral.com/481, absolutely check out that show. Really nice one on food combining that not a lot of people know about, except health coaches and nutritionists as well. And even it's not taught in, if you're a registered dietitian, it's not taught in school as well. But these are true things. It's the actual makeup of the foods. Now, so I'm not going to rehash that entire show, but what I do want to say is you're on the right track, because here's what you're thinking is that if you blend everything up, meaning like if you blend your fruits and your vegetables and everything up, what happens is you don't have to worry about then the enzymes to break down the foods or the time it takes to break down certain foods to move through the stomach. Okay? Because that's what food combining really is all about. We're looking at different enzymes to break down different foods. It's not just lipase for fats and proteases for protein and amylase for starch. It doesn't work that way. There's a lot of other enzymes like cellulases and xylanases that break down other types of carbs. So what we're looking at, though, is essentially how long it takes for these foods to transition through your stomach so that there's no fermentation in the gut and in the stomach. So by blending, juicing, or turning these things into like a soup, you level out the playing field, which means we don't have to worry about the food combinations when it comes to that. Very simple foods, water-based foods, raw foods, they keep their enzymes. Really, really simple, right? So that's how you want to look at it. And that's, of course, what we do for our daily nutritional support smoothies that we recommend. Those are all free. You can get the smoothies right online for the smoothie reports. You can get our green recipe guides using our daily fruit and vegetable blend right online as well. I do the same exact things, literally the same. I do my greens, I do my smoothies, I do my probiotic. That's my Dr. Cabral daily protocol. It's because it's what I do. And it's what all my private wellness clients, whether they're a billion-dollar CEO or whether they're a Hollywood celebrity or they're my own family, anyone, literally someone who just lives right down the street that's a friend. They're getting the same thing to maintain with, and then, of course, customize if they need anything for them, but that's what they're maintaining with. So please do keep that in mind, that the food combining is real. It does matter when we're looking at whole foods. Fruits digest faster than starches, than your protein and veggies, and your green leafy vegetables when eaten whole like that. So that's how you're looking at it. There's just a normal movement through the gut. And again, hopefully that answers your question. But when you blend everything up, you make it easily digestible. It's pre-blended, pre-digested, pre-chewed up. Hopefully that helps. And if you're worried, of course, you can still use a digestive enzyme as well. What I'm saying is you'll every once in a while, maybe like 1 out of 200 clients, will still, in the very beginning, need to just do mono meals or kind of like one food at a time. So just keep in mind, leave yourself always open to the possibility that 1 out of 100 people, 1 out of 200 people might have to go back to the real basics and literally just have one little food group at a time. But that's because their digestion is so weak, so deteriorated that that's where they have to start from. But then as they heal, then they can move on to these types of things. All right. Ava's up next. Hello, a vain question more than a health one. I've noticed deeper and more visible visible creases on my chest area, and I really don't want them to get worse. Even more so, I'd like to get rid of them without injection or laser. Do you have any tips? I'm mid-30s, and these lines are making me self-conscious. Thank you very much for your insight. So what she's talking about, basically, Ava, is from sun damage creating the wrinkles on the chest. That's the easiest way to go about it. Okay. So here's what we need to think about first. What rebuilds collagen in the skin? Zinc, glutamine, vitamin C, vitamin E. You can get all of those things from a good daily activated multi, from a good all-in-one protein powder like the one we offer, or other functional medicine-based brands with a little bit extra vitamin C. That's the easiest way to do that because that covers all your vitamins in general. Okay, what's another easier step added to that? Why do I recommend a smoothie so much? Because you need to stay hydrated. A lot of people, as they age, are not drinking enough fluid. And because of that, since their blood, since their skin, since all these things are volumized by anywhere from 60 to 90% is water, that the skin isn't plump enough. So we need to get more good hydration in the body. Okay, now what can we use topically? Topically to help, we can use aloe vera. We can use natural vitamin C serums. We can use natural vitamin A serums like carrot seed oil. We can use things like hyaluronic acid. And what can you use for a natural chemical peel without having to move to the lasers, which I'll talk about at the end, is apple cider vinegar. Mix just enough apple cider vinegar mixed with French green clay or bentonite clay, and using that, let's say, every other day for a couple weeks as a natural chemical peel, or only as your skin can take it, placed on your chest for anywhere from 10 to 20 minutes. All right. And again, you'll just want to test a small area at first, see how you do. And what that will do is that will help to just take off that top thin layer of skin and start to rebuild the skin as well. Okay, so what are the lasers that she's talking about? Well, something called a broadband light laser using what's called, and I don't know the pronunciation, so I'm going to spell it for you, SCITON. So Cyton, we'll just say that laser. And what this uses is actually used to remove that top layer of skin. And for the most part, doesn't seem to be a lot of contraindications, meaning like a lot of potential issues, but is very expensive, a couple $100 per treatment. So let's start with all the natural-based things that you can do, things that you're going to want to do for life anyways, and then you can look into potentially using some of the photon or photo-based lasers, which you should obviously only have done with a dermatologist or a licensed esthetician. Okay, next question is from Lisa. Hi, Dr. Cabral. I'm so overjoyed to have found you and your podcast. I'm hooked. Your teachings, insights, and dedication are a blessing in my life. Thank you so much for all you do. I have a question regarding CBD oil and eye health. I was diagnosed with Vitreal macular traction or Vitreal macular traction in my left eye in October 2013. I'm in good shape, no major health issues outside of mild IBS, which I manage with your diet and probiotics. And so I was shocked to see this happen. I can see out of the eye, just can't read out of it, which is depressing. So she just goes into possibility of surgery, different types of things like that. She's read a few articles talking about how CBD oil can help with other health issues. Others have been healed with macular degeneration. Could you speak to the potential of your CBD protocol? Many thanks. Okay, so without a doubt, hands down, CBD oil and cannabis, well beyond before it was legal, it's been shown as a treatment for cancer and glaucoma. So other retinal-based issues, other inflammation of the eyes. So if you haven't used the CBD oil, I would recommend that, of course. Again, you'll always just use your own best judgment. Again, there's no psychoactive components. So it's not like you're smoking marijuana or doing anything like that. It's just there's no a psychoactive component to it. So now people do get tremendous anti-anxiety, mood stabilizing, better relaxation, all of those things, which is what I spoke about many times on the CBD oil podcast, that people, literally hundreds of people, have been getting benefit now using our particular CBD oil product. Why do we recommend ours? Simply because most CBD oil products, like anything that's first to market or out there, they're simply not doing good enough testing and their dosages are way too small. So dosages for, just keep in mind for glaucoma or eye-based issues, like you're talking about specifically, are a minimum of 10 to 20 milligrams. Ours is 24.2 milligrams per 10 drops, and we have 30 servings in there. So it's a phenomenal deal because usually people are selling at the same exact price as us or just a little lower for only 5 milligrams. That's only 20% of the potency. You're not going to get the results with that because for you, you're going to most likely want to do 1 to 2 servings per day. So very simple, very straightforward. Well, keep in mind that a lot of people I work with who have these eye-based issues, ocular-based issues, they run a hair tissue mineral analysis because that will show you if you have a high calcium to magnesium ratio. You'll want to up your magnesium. You'll want to use a high antioxidant formula. Thorne has a great high antioxidant formula. There are other people as well. You want to stay hydrated, really, really important. You want to reduce stress. And I would also run a food sensitivity test, an IgG food sensitivity test, just to make sure the foods that you're eating aren't also causing inflammation that can exacerbate the system. So that's why, doing a multivitamin is great. Doing a probiotic is great. Like that's standard. That's going to help to keep you in good health. But there can be other imbalances within your body. Like that's not a fail safe. That's a good thing once you get your body good and stable or trying to get healthy. But there are other things to it as well that I would highly recommend looking into. And magnesium is one of those. CBD oil absolutely would be one of those as well. Okay, Michelle's up next. Hi, Dr. Cabral. I have a few questions that are interrelated. I just purchased the daily support protocol, and I'm wondering, would I, as a 105-pound woman, so she purchased the Dr. Cabral daily protocol. Got it. 105-pound woman uses the 2 scoops that my husband at 200 pounds uses every morning based on weight. So I'm going to go through her questions because they're all individual. So all nutritional supplements are essentially based on about 150, 160-pound human. So that's why we give it the same for basically all adults. All adults, I shouldn't say all adults, but the majority of adults fall somewhere between 120 and like 200 pounds or so, okay? So yes, you use the same amount without a doubt, because you fall both within that parameter. Now, it's just a starting point. So meaning like that's the vitamins and minerals that your body needs. We don't put extra in. We don't put in too little. We put in more than 100% of the RDA so that you make sure you get everything you need. Now, let's say you have a child. That's why we reformulated our protein powder, our all-in-one, which is called the Daily Nutritional Support. Some people love the flavor. Some people, wish it was a little sweeter. So for those who wish it was a little sweeter, add a little bit of more like natural stevia. That will help to sweeten it. We'll take feedback. Remember, we're dedicated to you. Like literally, we're dedicated to our customers. And if everyone says, well, we want it a little bit sweeter, then great. We'll make it a little bit sweeter, of course, with just all natural organic stevia. But you can do that on your own for right now. Okay. So yes, you'll use the same. If children are using it, let's say they weigh 75 pounds or so, they'll use 1 scoop. If your child weighs like 30 to 40 pounds, they'll use a half a scoop, which is what my kids do. So hopefully that answers your question. But for the both of you, you can pretty much use the same. If you want to use a little less than your husband, that's okay. Am I getting all the daily vitamins that I need with only 2 scoops? Yes, you're getting all the vitamins you need. Remember, I'm going to repeat this. There is no all-in-one formula on the market that is more potent and better than ours. I'm literally saying that unbiased because I've compared them all. Like when I get to create a product myself, which costs a lot of money, more money than you could possibly imagine. Like it's way too much to create this product, but it's worth it because I use it myself. I'm going to use it forever. My family uses it. Everyone in my practice uses it. My private clients use this. So very, very important. You get everything you need. Now, might you need more magnesium if you have a specific condition? Yes. Might you need more zinc if you have a specific condition? Yes. Your next question is, if I'm deficient in B's and D's, is it okay to take an additional supplement? If so, when? Yes. So for example, if I'm in a very high stress time in my life, meaning like I just have a lot of projects going on, a lot of travel, a lot of speaking, whatever it might be. I take 1 B vitamin every single morning with breakfast, and that's my activated B vitamin because it's a methylated vitamin. So I know within my genetics, I have methylation-based issues. If you haven't tested your genetics, great to test your genetics. You take a methylated. Now, of course, in the nutritional supplement, I added extra B vitamins so that most people never need to take an extra B. But during times of high stress or low energy, add an extra B vitamin capsule with breakfast and 2 if needed. Now, should you take extra vitamin D? Yes. During the winter, where I'm in Boston, right? I'm in New England. Anyone that lives above the Atlanta, Georgia line in the United States needs more vitamin D. But you can also test for that as well. But yes, so when you take extra vitamin D at breakfast or dinner, 2,000 to 5,000 IUs per day during the winter months is needed, which, by the way, for anyone above Atlanta, Georgia, is really October through May. Now, for the summer, if you get a tan, you might be able to come off. If not, you'll drop your dosage from 2,000 or 5,000, somewhere within that, down to 1,000 or 2,000. Okay, so number 4, You suggest using it in the morning, afternoon shake. Is it possible to take in too many vitamins during a day? I know certain vitamins build up and others like C don't. Okay, so yes, vitamin D can build up, vitamin K can build up, vitamin A can build up, vitamin E can build up. Your fat-soluble vitamins can build up. So that is why we don't typically recommend extras of vitamin A, extras of, what else? Vitamin E. But we do if we lab test. So the only way that you know is if you actually lab test. So the water-soluble ones like vitamin B and vitamin C, as long as you're not going insane dosages of vitamin B, you're going to be fine. Like 1 capsule extra, you're totally fine. Vitamin C, you can't take too much really. If you do, you get diarrhea, you get loose stool. So that means you've met bowel tolerance. So for the most part, you don't have to worry about all the other water-soluble vitamins. You never want to go overboard. I mean, that's always my philosophy anyways. You only take in what you need, which is why when I get people healthy, and hopefully you're doing it on your own as well, all we do is we maintain with the daily nutritional support shake or a multivitamin if they don't want to do a smoothie. We do the greens powder, so you're getting 22 organic fruits and vegetables, and you're doing the daily probiotic support. That is what I do every day. That is what my private wellness clients, again, like I work with people who could afford to do whatever. I don't try to upsell them on more nutritional supplements. I give them what they need on a daily basis. A lot of other people need a little extra magnesium at night to help calm down the sympathetic nervous system. A lot of other people need some omega-3s, and we do that as well to balance their lifestyle when they're eating too many inflammatory foods. So we give you what you need beyond that, but for the most part, you don't need to take in a lot of extra of the other vitamins. Now, of course, when you get a cold, you feel run down, you take extra vitamin C. That's why we have our adult immune-based protocol. Again, you follow that when you're feeling run down, but then you stop once you're better. So, I mean, I've talked about this. I give hour-long or 2-hour-long seminars, so I could talk about this forever, but hopefully that answers your questions. Thanks for asking. Okay, Anonymous is up next. Really great question when I read this, and I want to give this the credence, the time that it deserves, because it's a very good question. Hi, Dr. Cabral. I love your podcast. I appreciate the amount of helpful information you give on a daily basis. 2 questions. You mentioned another podcast that not every person can take a probiotic depending on internal issues. What if you don't know whether your child has one of those? Is it better not to give them or at all? Well, so here's the thing. Totally understand where you're coming from. If your child has gas, if they have bloating, if they have a distended stomach, if they have any type of skin rashes, candida-based issues, you'll want to run an organic acid test. You'll want to find out if your child has yeast overgrowth or bacterial overgrowth in the gut. Because if you're giving more probiotics or prebiotics to someone that has SIBO or bacterial overgrowth, not a great idea, okay? Especially the colon-based probiotics. The small intestinal ones might be fine, but definitely not the colon-based ones through the mouth, right? So that doesn't really make sense until you get your gut balanced. But for most people, they can do well. I mean, and they do well. But if you have that gas, you have the bloating, you have the distension, you have the skin rashes, you have the, you take probiotics and you start to get brain fog, then it's not good for you, right? So that's why there isn't an all for one. And so again, I like to do the organic acid test. And then I either like to do the children's or adult candida protocol and bacterial overgrowth protocol, like a SIBO-based protocol, IBS-based protocol as needed. And then you clean the gut up and then you use the probiotics. And we do recommend probiotics starting with a single strain month 2 of our candida and bacterial overgrowth protocol. And then we build up to 5 strains, and then we build up to 10 strains to help keep the gut healthy. Okay, so hopefully that makes sense. Next question. My child takes a gummy by Renew Life, Ultimate Flora, 3 billion. I'm concerning more harm than good. Okay, so yeah, I don't use a lot of gummies with kids. It's only if they won't do some multi, if they won't do this and that. Honestly, we use the daily probiotic support. So the same one that adults use. It's the serving size for adults is 2 caps. For children, we take 1 capsule and we empty half out into their water or food. We just do half a cap. So it's 12.5 billion CFU. And then after that, we can work them up to 1 full capsule eventually. So I prefer that. Less gummies, the better. I know that gummies work for some things and some vitamin C. And we do recommend that if, a kid's sick and they won't take vitamin C in their water, we want them to get healthy. And so we're okay with that. But sometimes those gummies, the xanthan gum and tapioca starch, things that are added can not be good for their gut as well. Okay. Question part 2. I loved your interview with Dr. Sarah Gottfried. I've been reading her book, Younger, which is excellent. I believe I read on a recent post of Sarah's that she was recovering from breast cancer. Part of me feels discouraged that a functional medicine doctor with access to all of the preventative tests, information, resources, and who has been following the best protocol for 10 years can still end up with breast cancer. I would like your thoughts on this. I think very highly of her and her work and wish her a full recovery. And this is by no means criticism of her work or of her. It just left me questioning if there just isn't a way to prevent disease if you're doing everything possible to get it right. So this is a question that a lot of people have. It's because, and it's sad that you're like, oh, well, because the underlying theme is that there's no hope, that I'm going to get the disease anyways, no matter what I'm doing. And that's not true, because there are long-term studies showing that people who do take omega-3s, who do use a multivitamin, who do use, all these different things actually get less disease, right? Who eat less of the fried food, their mortality rate isn't as high. There's a lot of studies on this. But can it happen? Yes, it can. It can happen. Deepak Chopra's right-hand man got a brain tumor, right? Who knows if he was very stressed or what was happening? Because that can happen as well. It's not just the food we put in, but we use the food, we use the nutritional supplements to help balance our lifestyle. And to be honest, we just all do the best that we can. And I'm telling you, the chances of you getting the cancer, the autoimmune disease, the whatever, go down if you're doing these things, but there's still a possibility. And there's still hope once you get them as well, because you can still use the natural alternative methods. So never let the possibility of something happen to you stop you from doing the things to try to prevent that in the first place. Because then you never look back with regret. You say, you know what? I did the best that I could and it still happened. Well, that's okay because I have no regrets because I did my best. That's what I say to myself. I lived a very unhealthy life until about 24, 25 years old with too much stress, too many sicknesses, too many illnesses, all of that, right? So I'm still trying to get rid of a lot of that stuff. I'm just making myself healthier every single year. And I want to end with this. Dr. Godfrey did not get breast cancer. So I want you to put your mind at ease there. She is doing all the best things for herself. She actually chose to have a prophylactic mastectomy. So that means that she actually had the breast tissue removed because she has the breast cancer gene. She has multiple genes for higher estrogen levels. And through all of her balancing, she didn't seem to be able to get her estrogen levels down. She prophylactically, which means she chose to have the breast tissue removed, which is what would be carcinogenic or infected by these particular genes. Now, it doesn't mean she was ever going to get breast cancer. It doesn't. But what she did, she felt like her best option to see herself live a long, healthy life was to have a prophylactic mastectomy. And that was her choice. So do keep in mind, she's still doing everything she can to stay healthy. And she'll continue to do that, even though she had this elective surgery, but she never got breast cancer. So please do put your mind at ease about that as well. Okay. 2 more questions. Anonymous. Hi, Dr. Cabral. My mom and I both have little red dots primarily on our arms. Some are the size of a pinhead and some are the size of a ballpoint pen. They look like little freckles. My mom has them all of her life, or at least for the last 20 years. Do you have any idea what causes these and how to get rid of them? Can you please shed more light on this topic? All right. Yes, this was answered on episode 464. So I'm not going to answer that today. I'm just simply going to link it up in the show notes, stevencabral.com/464. You'll see that answer. And I'm going to answer our last one for the day real quick as well. Hi, Dr. Cabral. This is from Jodi. Love your podcast. I started listening about a month ago and I'm learning lots. What are your thoughts on the new fascia blaster that is being advertised to break up cellulite? I'm wondering if I should purchase one. Here are what are your other ideas to eliminate cellulite? Thanks, Jodi. Okay, so there is no way that a fascia blaster is going to remove your cellulite without doing anything else. Great product, nothing wrong with it. And I did mention it on my full show, which I'm going to link up right now, to remove cellulite, to get rid of it. Because cellulite is not just about reforming that tissue. Yes, that is what helps. So I recommended foam rolling back on episode 221 to help with that. But that's just a small part of it. So Jodi, how to get rid of cellulite. It is a whole show dedicated just to this topic. Go to stevencabral.com/221 and I'm going to link up the fascia blaster as well for everyone else. It's just part of it. It's one small part, but it's not the main thing. It's not looking at the underlying root causes, but it's looking at more of a surface level thing. For everyone else, go to stevencabral.com/498 for all of today's show notes and all of the questions listed out. Thank you everyone for tuning in, and I'll be back tomorrow with more of our community's questions on the Cabral House Call. I want to sincerely thank you for your support of this podcast. I couldn't do it without you, and I mean that. I truly do. I also want to make sure you knew that we now have multiple ways for you to find your answers to the most difficult health, wellness, weight loss, and anti-aging questions. You can find podcast-specific topics like thyroid, adrenal, hormones, sleep, digestion, Ayurveda, and many more at stevencabral.com/podcasts that will then link you to your favorite Apple, Spotify, and other podcast players. Plus, all new podcasts and weekly exclusive video content is being added to our YouTube channel at youtube.com/Stephen Cabral. And that's Stephen with a PH. Head on over and subscribe so that you don't miss any of the exclusive content. Lastly, if you've ever found any of my podcasts or books to be helpful, I would really appreciate it if you could leave a review on iTunes or your favorite media player for the podcast. Rating and subscribing to the YouTube and podcast allow me to reach more and more people and help spread my mission of healing throughout the world. Thank you again for being a part of this movement.